Are we live?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just checking here. Yeah, we are live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy Monday and welcome to another episode of Change School TV, our weekly dose of inspiration for your Monday mojo and mindset reset for the week ahead. Now, if you've been following us this month, our theme for June is well-being. And so this is our third episode in this month's series, where our first episode was episode 32, where we talked about how to make the shift from workaholism to lifeaholism. So if you missed that, be sure to catch the replay and we can share those links later on. Week 2 was all around the importance of using positive language in order to boost your well-being with success narratives. So that was episode 33, and if you missed that, be sure to catch the replay on that, and we'll share the link as well. But for tonight's episode 34, we are going to be talking about how to take time out for yourself. So we're going to cover why taking time out is so essential for your mental health, well-being, and sense of balance. We're also going to share what you can do to make the most of the time that you do take out for yourself and how to plan your time out or off with more intention and purpose. And if you received our newsletter or email reminder on this, we had a little clue or hint about what we're going to be sharing tonight. So we are talking about how to take time off, but it's not necessarily what you think. So it's not about planning your next vacation or holiday, although that may be something you decide to do, but we're actually going to look at ways to bring more intention, more conscious planning, and to really focus that time on your well-being. So we're going to cover the why, what, how. And for those of you who are tuning in or watching us live, shout out in the comments if you resonate with this topic or if you've recently thought or said to yourself, I need a break. I know I've definitely done that at different points in my life, and definitely even more recently as well. So if that's you, give us a shout, give us some hearts so we know that you're picking up what we're putting down. And for those of you who have actually taken a holiday recently or a vacation and maybe come back feeling or saying to yourself that I need a holiday from my holiday. I think we've all kind of experienced something like that, and that is just another reason why we make the distinction, or we're going to make the distinction tonight, between taking a vacation and treating that as a break versus really carving out time for yourself to focus on nourishing your body, mind, and soul. So if you're listening to us right now, or you're just jumping in and you're nodding your head, or you're thinking to yourself, yes, this is exactly what I've been thinking about or struggling with, or you know exactly what I'm talking about, then stick with us because we've got a lot to share on this topic tonight. And as always, we're going to wrap up with some really practical tips that you can take in to the week ahead. But just to set the context and some background, really the reason this is such an important topic is because making time for ourselves is something we all need more of, and I think so many of us want more of, but we seldom prioritize that, and a lot of times we don't actually know how to make it happen. And what we really need to realize is that not carving out this time on a regular basis really causes us to feel this need to escape sometimes, right? And a lot of the times we mix up this idea of carving out meaningful, productive insofar as helping you to recharge time versus just checking out. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but the goal for all of this is really to start cultivating better practices that allow us to be more sustainable in our life and in our work. And one thing I just want to kind of plant in your minds is if you kind of think back, I was thinking about this myself the other day, but if you kind of think back to the olden days, like, so whether it's from stories, you know, your family members have told you, or movies you've watched, or books that you've read, you may have noticed, I know I noticed this, that, you know, as a society, we used to be so much better at just living, at just being, and just enjoying life, and just hanging out sometimes. And what I was reflecting on is how in today's society, modern society, we've really been taught to value doing more than being. And we've been socialized to fill our schedules so that we're always busy and that we're always feeling productive, instead of creating more white space to reflect, to recharge, or to do nothing. So in many ways, I feel like we've kind of lost the art of doing nothing, or worse, we've been socialized to actually feel bad or guilty or unproductive when we're not doing something. So that's what we're going to dive into much, much more tonight. But I just wanted to leave you guys with that initial thought, and, you know, really just think about the fact that we live in an always on society. And, you know, if we want to be able to get off that hamster wheel every so often, and, you know, be able to find that sense of balance, whatever that means for you, whatever life and work balance looks like for you, our goal for tonight is to really help you to unlearn this idea that busy is better, and to learn how to take time out for yourself in a meaningful way, and to relearn the art of doing less or doing nothing in order to have more of what really matters in your life. And that includes your better health, more balance, and greater fulfillment. So, Grace, how you doing over there?
Awesome. I am all live on my computer and my phone. So I'm seeing you guys sign in. A little bit behind here, but it's a little bit delayed, but I'm seeing you guys join in. Hey, Sam. Hey, Borja. There's a few others that I can't see who are joining in, but as you guys tune in, we'll be shouting out and asking you for some comments along the way as well. Okay, so I'm going to get started on why taking time out is so important. And I think this is such a good topic for all of us. And, you know, for me, if you've been following us over the last 6 months, time out for myself has been extremely important. And actually, you know, is something that I used to do so much more every quarter. And now for all the moms out there, I'm sure you know how tough it is to take time out for yourself when you've got a little rat bag or cutie pie hanging out next and really needing a lot of your time and attention. But taking time out for you is so important. And, you know, most of us are juggling so many different roles in our lives, so many different responsibilities. We're working longer hours. We're either taking care of a little one or taking care of, you know, maybe even a mother or an older person in our lives, right? But you also have a social life, and all of these things that encompass our lives end up taking up so much of our time. And most of the time we put our time and energy and efforts catering to the needs or demands of others versus ourselves. And we're so used to running on autopilot and really, you know, this rat race that we tend to forget about our own needs. And when we're struggling, we forget because we're not really listening. And we forget to catch our breath, and then all of a sudden we're like burning out. So learning to take time out is really going to help you not only be more productive, but just be more effective in general and actually be more present in where you are today. And it's also going to give you more positivity. It's going to allow you to be more calm in general, right? You're going to be able to overcome more challenges with the right mindset versus just kind of throwing fires out, right? And it allows us to really just focus on the most important things. Another reason is that, you know, there's there's the rise of mental health issues, right? We're seeing so much going on in the mental health space right now. There's so many people suffering from stress, anxiety, depression, career burnout, all of these sort of things. And the more connected we become through digital media or through social media or through our phones, right, the less connected we are with ourselves, and the less connected we are also with our greater community in the offline world, even though we may have the community on the online world. So it's really important to know how to prioritize yourself and to set boundaries. And that's something that I know I've constantly been working on over and over, because it's so easy to just get caught up in everything that life takes you through, right? And all of a sudden you feel like you've lost control and, you're not nurturing yourself. The other reason is that, if we can't take care of ourselves, it doesn't serve ourselves or anyone else better, right? So it's always that thing, you must love yourself first, you must take care of yourself first before you can take others. Even, when you're on the plane, right? And they're sort of explaining how to put the mask on, the oxygen mask. They always say, put yours on first before someone else. And the same sort of happens when you're thinking about taking time out, right? Most often though, we tend to take time out and escape from where it is that we are, rather than actually take time out for that self-care that we really need. And we're all leading crazy busy lives. There's always events going on, and there's ever-growing demands of work, and we just seem to forget about giving ourselves attention. And recently I changed my phone to be in black and white, grayscale, so that I didn't get distracted from all the things that were coming up in my phone. And I started to reorganize the way that I looked at my phone, so that I also wasn't going to be totally distracted by constantly checking my notifications or my emails or all of these sort of things, so that I could start unwinding my, my need to constantly be on my phone. And having it grayscale has really helped, because it doesn't look as attractive as when it's colored, right? So it's easy to get so caught up in the action and the noise that we just don't pay attention to ourselves, to our inner voices, to our inner needs. And, all of us have a choice. And today we really want to try and emphasize that you can start taking action and making time for yourself, and really putting self-care on the priority list, so that you don't burn out, and so that you can prevent all these bad things from happening. And, it will help your entire family. It'll help your friends. It'll help your work. And it'll also help you achieve your vision or your dreams and where it is that you want to get to. So taking time out isn't about checking out of your life and work, right? When we're so overwhelmed with tasks or deadlines and demands, we just seem to think that we don't have enough time, and that if we go away on a holiday, everything will disappear and we'll escape the reality of our lives. But the problem is, usually we come back and then we get bombarded with a ton of, extra tasks lists or people to meet up or all of these sort of things, right? There's nothing wrong going with holidays, but when it comes to your well-being, it's usually just a temporary fix. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be going on holidays, but really it's about creating the right type of time outs more consistently for yourself. And then also taking a vacation to really recharge and recalibrate and really set your intention right. And I think I shared maybe a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, that not long ago I set time out for my own intention setting after so long of not having any time out for myself, and took really a deep 4 days to just do nothing, lie by the pool, do my visioning, read books, and just take care to heal myself and to be with myself. And that was amazing. And I came back so much more rejuvenated. It literally gave me a whole new fuel inside of me to hit the ground running, right? So me time is something that's important, not just every now and then. It's really important to try and build that in our routine. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but it just allows us to have more consistency in our week and have that moments to de-stress and unwind and have that white space. And another thing that I think is so important is we're often filling our calendars to like 150%, right? We're filling our calendars so much rather than actually filling it to 80% and keeping the 20% as white space, so that if things happen to pop up or things get delayed or we want to have a bit more time for ourselves, it's possible, right? So I think really look at how you're structuring that time in your week as well. And the last thing, I guess, before I pass it back on to Soul, is that when we're so focused on giving to others, we're really taking away from giving to ourselves, right? So some of the common reasons we hear from our students who tend to struggle to plan more me time is, in particular in their regular schedules, is that they just don't have enough time, right? But if we were to map out our time, right, you'll see that there probably is a lot more time that we could start using better. And I know Saul's going to probably touch on that a little bit later. The other common, reason we hear from students is that they're feeling guilty about taking more time out for themselves or taking any time out for themselves. And there's so much stuff to do. And I hear that a lot from mothers too, right? I hear it where it's like, well, I have time. I don't have time for myself because I'm taking care of my husband, or, spending time with my husband, and then I'm taking care of my kids. But it's so essential. And I think it becomes even more essential as a mother for your own sanity check, right? To have time out for yourself, because we are constantly giving ourselves to our kids. The third reason that we most commonly hear is that it's selfish, or, it's bad to prioritize ourselves. So, let's break those, those common reasons and put in new reasons for why we should be taking time out for ourselves. And the more caring or giving of a person you are, or the more of an overachiever that you are, the more likely these feelings are going to be there, right? And they're going to hinder us from making those positive or necessary changes. And this tends to be more common among women, but definitely there's a lot of men out there who can relate to that. So all the guys watching, if that's you, shout it out in the comments. All the ladies out there, if you're watching as well, shout it out in the comments. And that's, just let us know how it's been for you. Right. But oftentimes, men tend to get caught up as the breadwinner role, and, or self-imposed pressure that they are often the most susceptible to neglecting their hobbies, personal development, or just time out for themselves, reading or hanging out with their guy friends. That has to change, right? It has to change for all of us. We deserve more time, and we need more time for our mental health, for our well-being, and it's possible to change. So starting today, starting from watching this live, or whenever it is that you're watching this live, I just want us to start putting it out there that we have a choice. We have a choice to start making the right decisions. We have a choice to start making time for ourselves, and really crafting the time on a regular basis in the week, but also on a more regular basis, time out for ourselves, instead of just checking out and going on a vacation. Okay, so I have a couple of comments. Hey, Kate, I can't see all the others for some reason, but I see that the numbers are there, but I can't see everyone. There's a comment from Sam. How do I grayscale? Literally turn colors and or notifications off. Yeah, so you go into general settings. I'll have to tell you exactly how it is, but you go into general settings. Hang on. It's really weird to see it all in gray. And you go to accessibility, and then you go into, sorry. I'm gonna have to find it. Sorry guys, we're stopping this. We're stopping this for a little bit. But Sam, if I can't find it right now, I will put it in the comments and I will let you know. And you choose the color and you just change it to grayscale. It's awesome. But sorry, before I get distracted and we end up taking 10 minutes in it, let me respond in the comments immediately, and then I'll let Soul chat about what you can do to start prioritizing your well-being.
Awesome. All right. I will take over so you can go answer some questions, Grace. Okay. So like Grace said, I'm going to talk about what it means to take more time out for yourself and what it could actually look like. And then later on, we'll get into some more practical tips. So I think always best to start with the facts, right? And the fact is that time is finite. So no matter what you do, no matter how much you wish or will for it to happen, there will only ever be 24 hours in a day. So you can't create more time. But what you can do is reassess your priorities, where you are focusing your time, where your energy is going, and really be able to reorganize your life and redesign your daily habits and your rituals in a way that reflects what's most important to you. So it does take really honest conversations with yourself about what are those things that are most important to you, whether it's family, whether it's, achieving a certain goal or status in your career, whether it's spending more time with your family. I mean, it's so personal, it's so subjective, there's no right or wrong. But I think what we find a lot, and even something we have to remind ourselves of a lot, is, the aim is to really find that alignment, to find that congruence, right? So that you feel happier, fulfilled, and find that sense of balance, because what you're doing reflects what's most important to you. Secondly, or from there, right, it's really a matter of smarter time management, and setting those intentions that really serve you and that are really going to help you to get where you want to go in your life and in your work. And creating boundaries is such an essential part of that process, and it will allow you to create more time so that you can actually enjoy that feeling of abundance, enjoy that feeling of actually having more time than you need to do all the things that you want. And so instead of sort of dwelling on those feelings of guilt or feeling bad or the things that you could be doing or should be doing, all the coulda, woulda, shouldas, it's really about recognizing that life is so much more than just your work or your business or your tasks. And, this was really what we were talking about in the first episode of the month, around making that shift from workaholism to lifeaholism, right? So it's really about indulging in those activities that you really enjoy and creating those opportunities to relax, to refocus, and to recharge. And when you do, you'll be able to come back to your work or to your business or to your day-to-day responsibilities with more focus, with more commitment, and with more enjoyment, which is at the end of the day what we all really want. And I was actually speaking with a coach a few weeks ago, and when she asked me how much time I sort of create for myself, I was kind of like, well, I try to give myself, 15 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes here and there. And she asked me, she goes, how long does it take to charge your phone? And I was like, I don't know, maybe between 45 minutes to an hour. And she's like, so you give your phone as much time as it needs to get to 100%, but you only give yourself 15 or 20 minutes. Now, I thought it was a really interesting way to think about things. And I think, again, there's no certain time frame or time limit. You have to find what works for you. And it's always great to start small and see where you can build on from there. But I think it's interesting, or it's an interesting way to think about things, right? Is like some things we always sort of understand. We know it's a given that we need to recharge things that we use, right? But we don't always apply the same rules to ourselves. And that's what I think really, really needs that mental shift and habit change. So point number 3 is, it's really about remembering what matters, right? So without making time for ourselves, we tend to lose sight of, sometimes our own identities, or like Grace said, our own needs. But we also tend to lose, as a result, a sense of self-worth, right? And we forget how important it is to honor ourselves and to, have those practices that really fulfill our body, mind, and spirit. And if we let that go on for longer periods of time, we start to lose connection to ourselves. And a lot of times we end up feeling empty. So that's how it can, in the long run, kind of lead to, more mental health issues, unhappiness, etc. And that's what we want to try and nip in the bud from the beginning, before it happens, right? So it's the whole thing, like with self-care, even seeing a doctor, seeing a dentist. Most of us don't like doing those things. So we try our best to create better habits that are preventive, right? It's all around preventive care. So how do we avoid having to get to a point where situations or problems are so critical that we then need to go and get, professional help for it? And if you do, it's totally okay. But if you can avoid it by being more proactive and bringing more awareness to it, it'll just save you a lot of time and maybe heartache. So, all of this is just to say that your well-being really isn't just nice to have. It is critical for your sustainability and success. And I think a lot of us know this intuitively, but it's not always translating into our actions and into our practices. And, you know, even if you look into the lives of any great leaders of the day, any movers and shakers that we all admire, you'll find that all of them have placed huge emphasis on creating that white space, whether it's for play, for creativity, or for doing nothing. And, you know, they are just as limited as you and I in terms of how many hours they have in a day, in terms of various responsibilities and roles that they play, if not more, right? The difference is that they know how to put themselves first when it's needed and to really honor that. So that's what we want to try and work towards. So it's really important to make that commitment to you. So I think, you know, if there's one mantra or reminder that you can take into your week, it's to stop wishing you had more time and start committing, like committing today, to carving more time for yourself into your daily schedule. So I think this small but really, really important mental shift will help you to change your approach and see if it doesn't give you more positive results. And, you know, I think we pretty much guarantee that you will be amazed by what a huge difference a very, very small adjustment can make when you bring more awareness and consciousness to it. So what are some ways? What could it look like? Before we get into the really practical stuff, I just want to kind of paint that bigger picture for you guys so you can start already imagining and thinking of the different possibilities that you could create time for yourself. So it could be as simple as taking a break from your work day to go for a walk or go for a ride if that's available to you. I'm always on my bike, so I always have to include that in. But whatever is available to you, the point is to try and just take some time to relax and chill. And, you know, if you're working in a 9 to 5 or you're in an office building, you know, even just taking 15-20 minutes to step outside and take a walk around the area, but not just walking for the sake of it, but also taking in your surroundings, right? Like look at the trees or look at, you know, or take in the sun. You know, if you live in Singapore, we live in the tropics, we have the curse and blessing of, you know, it being hot and hotter all year round, but we get so much sunlight, right? And so really taking that in, or on a rainy day, like stopping and smelling the air, you know, or just people watching. I think so often we take the little things for granted. But when we pause and learn to sort of take that stuff in, it reminds us how much we have to be grateful for. It reminds us to appreciate the smaller and finer things in life that don't necessarily take money, certainly don't require you to work harder. It just actually requires you to pause, right, and take it all in. So these things can really just add more enrichment, add more meaning, add more beauty to our lives without even having to go very far. It could also be just finding a quiet spot to just be and to sit and to think and to be with yourself. And it doesn't have to be like super deep and meaningful or something serious. You don't have to be planning anything. It could be, you could be zoning out, you could be daydreaming. It could be something really silly and random. You don't have to take it into the rest of your day. I think more important is that act of taking time out and just being with yourself and learning to be okay with that. I think it's, for me personally, I think it's quite interesting. I meet a lot of people who really struggle with being just with themselves. And it's because we're so used to that constant stimulation or constant conversation. But actually a lot of it is just noise and distraction from us being able to listen to ourselves. So obviously the next level, if you have it in your practice, or if you're even curious about starting to meditate, that's obviously one of the most powerful and helpful ways to kind of learn how to be present, learn how to practice breathing, and to just be quiet and sort of train your brain to relax. And if you have that monkey mind, as I do, you know, it's such a nice thing to try and incorporate into your day, even if it's not first thing in the morning. It could just be something you do anytime you find yourself feeling really stressed or bogged down with anything that's happening at work. So, some of these things can really just help you to shut out the noise and shut out those distractions. And just remember that, any time you enjoy is never wasted. I read that quote ages ago, and it was just so mind-boggling for me, because I'm definitely one of those people who, before, probably more so, would feel really guilty or feel really bad if I wanted to do something that wasn't productive or wasn't, related to my work. And so the first time I read that quote, I was like, oh my God, that is truth. And I am going to start following it. So I hope that serves some of you who are watching now, and maybe you can take that into your week. But, if you do decide to take some time out, or if you do decide to just go and daydream at some point in your week or during your work day, and you're really stuck on things to think about, I can give you some things that are a bit more serious that you can reflect on, right? So couple questions to just kind of chew on this week maybe is, are you really giving yourself the time you deserve? Do you take that time to listen to yourself? Do you have time to appreciate those simple but amazing pleasures of life? Do you take time to treat yourself to something nice once in a while? How often are you showing yourself how much you value yourself? And where can you carve out more time to do those things or for those things? So reflecting on these questions, I think, can really help you to start defining and clarifying small incremental changes or adjustments that you want to make in your lifestyle or in your work style. And it'll also help you to refocus everything back to your bigger goals or intentions or dreams. And, honestly, reflecting on these things, making the time to kind of work towards those things will help you to achieve your dreams so much better than always being busy ever will. And, you don't have to take our word for it. You can just try it this week and see how you go and let us know. So just a couple more things. So here's a few more ideas I just want to quickly share with what you can do with the time that you manage to carve out for yourself. So one is you could call out all of the distractions that you personally suffer. And they're different for all of us, but most of us have become masters of distractions, myself included, right? So like Grace shared, maybe for her, it's more her phone. But the point is that we do tend to dodge our feelings of uncertainty or fear or self-doubt or whatever it is. And a lot of times we kind of put that into overworking, overeating, overspending, overindulging, binge drinking, all these negative habits or excessive sort of habits that help us to kind of avoid having to face the things that we don't really want to deal with, or avoid having to think about them or address them, in a more meaningful and constructive way. So that's one thing you could do for one of your breaks, is just like have a think on what are those things that tend to distract you from things that you want to be carving more time to address. Second is do something for a little bit of soul searching, soul searching is just another term for reflection, right? And self-reflection is really something we always talk about because it helps you to see the world and see your life and see yourself through different eyes. So when you carve the time for whatever self-reflection ritual you enjoy, whether it's journaling, meditating, reading books that inspire you, finding communities that resonate with you, or even just spending more meaningful time with your friends and family to really talk and discuss about questions like, what are we here to do? How do we want to live? What kind of habits are we creating? What kind of rituals are we building for ourselves? What desires do I have in this life? Who do I want to help? How do I want to make a difference? And I think focusing on those aspirational, inspirational questions really helps us to kind of let go of the stuff that sometimes occupies our mind a lot and keeps us really busy, but aren't necessarily going to help you go further into where you want to go. So really try to think about the things that you enjoy to do. It could be dancing, painting, hosting dinners at home, pampering yourself, making room for play, anything that nourishes your body, mind, and soul. And I would just say, again, remind yourself, it's not just about dreaming about it and fantasizing about it, but actually doing it and scheduling it into your calendar and treating it like a priority and then making it happen. So the final bits I would say is, try to focus on experiences and not things, right? You don't need another dress or a bigger car or a nicer house or more, things to feel attached to or to own necessarily for your well-being. So planning that solo trip or going on a retreat, or yes, maybe planning a vacation, right? If that allows you to indulge in your wanderlust and bring more purpose to it, right? And bring more intention to really reconnect with yourself or really have fun and just let loose, or immerse yourself in a totally new and different environment, or find inspiration in new encounters and connections and conversations, then do that. We would definitely encourage you to think about those experiences that will really fulfill you, rather than thinking about more things that you need to buy or have. Yeah. And, have fun with it. It doesn't need to be something super heavy and serious, and having fun does not have to be exclusive or mutually exclusive from improving yourself or working on yourself or healing yourself. And last but not least is just embrace opportunities. So, a lot of times opportunities are disguised as coincidences, and those serendipitous encounters and conversations or random ideas that seem to come out of nowhere, or random people you meet that you're like, how did you suddenly come into my path? Or why are we suddenly having this conversation? A lot of times those are the universe's opportunities, like coming into your lap, right? And so taking time out is really about creating the right situation and environment and circumstances for yourself, so that you can start to attract those things into your life and start manifesting those positive outcomes that you want in your life. Because when we're so caught up with the busyness, and when we allow distractions to kind of cloud our minds and cloud our days and our time, we're actually blocking ourselves from those opportunities, and we're preventing ourselves from really being able to invite abundance, possibilities, and fulfillment and fun into our lives. So those are my sort of big picture comments and things for you to kind of think about. And I'm going to pass you back to Grace, who's going to share more practical tips and ways for you to plan your time off with more intention and purpose.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm going to share with you 9 things that you can do to start planning your time off with intention and purpose. So there are a couple of, from a few different sources, but first things first is learn to say no. I think this is a really big one that we've probably heard over and over a couple of times, but really it's about setting boundaries and taking control of your life, and it's about setting those healthy boundaries, right? So saying no to requests or demands to do things that just perhaps don't add value to where you are right now in your life. Or are things that you don't really want to do. Sometimes we feel we have these social obligations or other obligations, but it's really not bringing us satisfaction or joy. So if there's one thing to do, is learn to say no. The second is just understand or start learning to listen to yourself, right? To know when you need a break. So sometimes it might be other people who are saying, gosh, you seem tired or a bit moody. Of course, there could be multiple things going on, but if you're seeing it as something that's consistent and you're feeling really lethargic all the time, or you're just being short with everyone around you, and perhaps losing your shit more than usual, then I would say that's something that you need to start listening to a little bit more, and perhaps think about whether or not you're on the brink of burnout, or whether you might just need to start having more time out for yourself as well, right? So these are some of those telltale signs. So the third is stop pretending everything is okay. And, we walk around and people ask us, how are you? And it's one of the common things that everyone seems to ask. And oftentimes we're usually like, great, everything's great. Doesn't mean you have to blurt out to the next person that you meet that your life is going to shit and, you might need to take a break. But it's really about knowing who to share what's going on in your life with, right? We all wear masks in our lives, and some days are going to be harder. We don't have to be positive or happy every day. We don't need to be, that upbeat, energetic person all the time. But it is important to stay positive, but not at the expense of being real with your friends. So if there are people that you can speak to, that you can really be honest with, and that you can confide in or ask for support, then really try and maybe even ask them to go for a walk or a bike ride, or even go for a run, right? And share how it is that you're feeling, or do something fun that's going to re-engage your energy or recalibrate your energy in the right way. And it's okay to be vulnerable, right? I think that's something that we often feel that we can't be. And I think something is, as long as your energy doesn't really impact going into a space and everyone else's energy, it's more about just being honest and open with the people that are around you, right? But it doesn't mean you have to, play victim when you're going to a social event, or feel like you're, having to share with everyone exactly how you're feeling and then putting the mood down. It's usually best to try and find a comfortable or a supportive group of people that you can just connect with and really share how everything is going. So tip 4 is decide how it's best for you to spend your me time. Everyone spends time differently, and everyone resonates with the way that we spend time for ourselves differently, right? So there's no right or wrong, and there's no better or worse. It's really about asking yourself, if you had an extra 15 minutes today, or this week, or an extra half an hour, right? What would you do to make yourself feel rejuvenated, right? Or relaxed, or recalibrated, or just reconnect with yourself? And I know for me, it was important when I was, when my daughter was really young. I went out and started going for hour walks and ended up listening to my podcast or walking meditation. And that was how I ended up finding me time, because I wasn't able to leave her, right? So there are ways to mix it into your life if you're really, really struggling to find that me time. But it's important to try and just maybe brainstorm or brain dump all the ways that you think you could spend me time, and keep a list. Put it in your phone or in your wallet, just have a list, and you can even start to check it off each week or start scheduling it into your calendar, right? Even if you don't know exactly what you're going to do in that me time each week, but if you have that list, you can always go back and reference it. Tip number 5 is evaluate and eliminate time wasters and energy suckers. And, for some people, this might be another thing of like decision fatigue, right? We all have decision fatigue. But if you're checking emails constantly, right? Or if you end up spending more time on the computer than you actually planned, or that you actually need to, find ways that can help you in eliminating that. So I know in the past I'd used Freedom, right? Or something that would cut off my internet. Or I had certain things that just would block my screen. So I was only able to focus on what it is that I was really working on. On my phone, I don't have notifications at all. I actually have never, and I don't even check my emails through my phone. For a while, I didn't even have emails on my phone. Now I set really nice little reminders, and we were talking about that last week. But for me, that's like something that's going to keep me focused on the things that I want to work on for myself over the next 6 to 10 months. So really evaluate and eliminate your time wasters and energy suckers, right? Do you answer phone calls in the middle of the day, or, when you're supposed to be spending quality time? Are you constantly or mindlessly checking social media? Are you running to the grocery store daily to pick up dinner instead of sort of planning ahead and shopping once per week? If that sounds like you, then we would really try and suggest to start reorganizing and systemizing your life in order to have a bit more free time for activities that are going to be more meaningful or fulfilling for you. And even perhaps carving out that me time. Maybe that's where you can start having more me time. Tip number 6 is carving out time at the start or at the end of your week to do the things that you want to do. Action planning can be an exciting activity and something that we should enjoy. And really for myself, Sunday nights, I tend to look at the week plan ahead. Monday mornings, I do a little mini check-in with my vision. I read over my vision. And then on Fridays at the early morning, I tend to review my week. What have I done? Actually, I have a great to-do list, which asks me what my energy levels are, my daily affirmations, one thing I will do tomorrow for my energy. So these sort of things keep me in check, but also allow me to start, making sure I'm prioritizing my time to do the things that I want to do. And if you can create one yourself, amazing. But really try and, plan out or commit to a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes of me time every day and putting that into your calendar. Tip number 7, right, is learn to do nothing. I think this is something that is really hard for a lot of people. And I know with some of the people that I, am around, it sometimes can be really tough. And even for myself, I think it took me a really long time to be okay to just lie on the couch or sit outside on the balcony and just stare into the blue sky, right? But in doing nothing calms the mind and soul, and it really does create that inner peace, and it allows you to reconnect with yourself and start listening to your intuition and your inner voices, and letting the good things out and the bad things out at the same time, right? It's about just letting go of everything, all your responsibilities, and training your mind to relax and just paying attention to your breath, but really just hanging out, right? Doing nothing is not about being lazy or passive. It's just learning to be still and present. And I think it's about enjoying doing nothing and really just embracing the moments, or looking forward to the moment that you can actually just do nothing. Tip 8, we've talked about this a little bit over the last 6 months, and it's something that's really important, but it's also about creating a ritual. And whether that's taking a bath or listening to music in the morning or reciting positive affirmations that speak to your intentions or your goals, right? Or even just creating time out to reflect. That's a ritual too. Or even creating time to do nothing. So how can you create a ritual that's going to work for what it is that you need to make happen? And last tip is engage outside support, right? So whether you're looking to speak to someone, or hiring to get help to take care of your kids, or whatever it is that you need to get that extra support system, it's important to try and put them in place so that you can feel equipped, or that you can create enough time for yourself. And if you need to speak to your spouse about it, or if you need to try and create more time to even think about engaging outside support, then make that a priority first, so that everything else can be a bit more of a domino effect and really help to kickstart that me time and setting that time for yourself with intention and purpose. Really asking for help is so essential, and I think we don't do it enough, because oftentimes we feel like we're going to put someone out, or it's going to be hard for us to ask for support. Even if you need a babysitter and you want to ask a close friend because you haven't had any time out for yourself or for you and your partner, right? If you don't ask, you don't know. And really, it's going to help you go further faster. So those are the top 9 tips that we wanted to share with you. You can see it all in our blog recap as well, which we'll usually share in a couple of days after today's session. But for now, if you wanted to download a workbook, Saul's going to share a little bit more on where you can get your hands on our awesome workbook. Oh, you're mute.
Hi again. I was squeaking in the background, so I had to mute it, but I am back. So yes, the workbook. So we have got a really snazzy free downloadable workbook for you guys. And it's all about how to avoid career burnout and live a more balanced and have more balance in your work life. So you can grab that at the link. I think I've popped it into the comments already, We will pop it in again just in case, but it's otherwise bit.ly/TCS burnout. And it's basically loaded with heaps of practical and actionable steps, because you know how much we love that, which you can implement immediately. And it also includes a snazzy little burnout tracker, so you can just see how you're going day to day, where you're at, how your energy levels are, and, you know, really think about what you need to do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis to kind of integrate more of that well-being and goodness into your life and work. And there's a free video in there as well on how to manage career burnout. So get your hands on that. And if you do, even if you just start to work on it, we'd love to hear your comments as always. So feel free to pop into our group and just share anything, anything that's worked really well. If you've been working on a new habit, if you're creating one, or any insights and thoughts you've had about tonight's session. I'm just noticing that I still have glitter on my face from the weekend. But anyways, that's it. And so next week is the final week in June, is it? Yes, it's the final Monday in June, right? And we have a very special guest on to share about well-being. Just in general, I think what we'd love to try and do as we're now moving into Q3 is to try and have more guests on the show to share their stories of how they are making change happen, either in life, in their work, big ways, small ways, whatever it is. But we want to make it really real. And I'm sure you're sick of listening to me and Grace babble week to week every Monday. We'll still be here, but we wanted to bring more voices and more stories to you. So look out for that. Come join us live, same time, same channel. And that's it.
I think that's it for now. You know, there's obviously our blog post for those of you that want to recap if you don't want to watch the whole video again. So watch out for that as we launch that in the next couple of days as well. So yeah, thanks so much guys for signing in. It's always great to see you guys here watching us live, and we'll see you same time, same day next Monday.
Have a great week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.